my friends have shown me, and of all my friends that have shown me, like, their grinders, I can maybe, like I've seen 10 profiles where I've seen, like, faces.
Wow.
So, I'm only assuming, like, people are
Using fake
sharing photos.
names.
Yeah, whatever, and then as soon as they come over, they immediately sign a NDA or document or something.
Yeah, this sounds like a job for Anonymous. Sounds like a hackathon to me.
Black people can't be racist.
Hey, welcome back to Black Behind the Chair. I'm Peppermint Petty.
I'm Impad.
And I'm Kay Boutit.
Pat and I are two Black hairstylists who work on all textures of hair. In cosmetology school, we're taught not to talk about religion, politics, sex, and salaries, but this is what happens when Blackness meets the beauty industry. While you're here, subscribe to our channel. We love respectful discourse. Definitely leave a comment and like this video. It's a free way to support our growth. You can also connect with us on all major platforms at Black Behind the Chair. And if you'd like to leave a comment by text or phone call, you can do so at 470-713-5905. Leave your @ if you want a shout out, but you're also free to leave your comment anonymously. So the first hour was great. I learned some things. We talked about St. Louis politics. We talked about national politics very generally. But we did not talk about yet SignalGate. And we've got to go there. So I think for me, like one of the things for me that's really stood out for all of this is like, they're showing the hearings, right? And they're all sitting up there lying through their teeth, right? Like, what's his name? Is it Goldberg, the Atlantic?
Yeah, Jeffrey Goldberg.
Jeffrey Goldberg waited until they all got done lying through their teeth and then went ahead and released everything. So I guess, like, for me, first of all, like, are we just like, is it just theater now? Like, what is the point of the hearings? What is the point of the hearings if no one's going to be held accountable?
To show you that they're trying their best. They're doing everything that they can.
So I could be wrong. Somebody could fact check me, but I was under the understanding that they were already going to be meeting with some, like maybe Tulsi Gabbard or maybe a couple people anyway, just to talk about some things that were, generally going on. And then SignalGate happened. So then that gave them an opportunity to so they already had the hearing scheduled. And then, now it's SignalGate is the focus instead of whatever they was going to talk about before. That's my understanding. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Also, wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. So despite the fact, because like, are they going to do anything? Probably not. Is anyone going to go to jail? Realistically, no. But how the hell does Jeffrey Goldberg? So like, I know I've been seeing some theories being floated around. Was he added on purpose?
I think he was.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was. Because Mike Waltz was the one that added him, and he tried to be like, well, you don't know me, da 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 da. But like on Meet the Press this morning, Jeffrey Goldberg was like, well, my number was in his phone because we know each other. And so me personally, I think either Mike Waltz or one of his staffers, either they added him by accident because maybe his initials are similar to somebody in the cabinet, or they added him on purpose because they wanted to expose how crazy and toxic the Trump administration really is, because like the idea that they talk on Signal is not the issue. It's what they're sharing on Signal that was really the problem, because every administration uses Signal to like be like, hey, we need to set up a meeting. So this is the, you know, the details generally, and then we'll get back to you and we'll be in, what's it called, like the stiff or the stint or whatever, the skid or something, wherever they go to talk about private things. So I think that they added this. I think that either Mike
Like
Waltz
an intern
or
did it.
one of his staffers, they're a mole. They're a mole. Just that's it's really that simple. I don't feel like it has to be all clandestine. I think either he or one of his staffers is the mole, and they wanted to leak information about what's going on in, you know, the inner circle. And I don't know that Walls knew that Pete Hegseth was going to be blackout drunk and start sharing state secrets. I think he just wanted him to see just how toxic, you know, their conversations could be, and it just got worse than what he probably expected. Because if you look at his initial text, it's like, hey, I need to know who the contacts are going to be for the certain conversation. And then Pete Hicks says, like, we about to bomb somebody. Like, that's just what? Escalated quickly.
Oh my God. And I haven't gone through and actually read the text. Did anybody go like, dude, we're on the wrong wavelength for that? Or they just they just all participated and it was just.
They just they let them go, and then they started participating and being like, you know, like the fist bump, American flag, fire thing. That was Walt. And then other people were like, God bless the troops, and just like the kind of conversation that you probably shouldn't be having about killing people. You know, like being super excited to be ending people's lives. And one of the locations that killed whoever was their main target was an apartment building where he was going to go visit his girlfriend. So we can assume that civilians, that there were other casualties outside of this so-called terrorist.
That we won't know about unless a mole decides to let us in on it.
Fact.
And then the other thing too is that this is, you know, I keep seeing jokes that like they're gonna, you know, they're basically going to be having these conversations by Snapchat, because part of the reason for using Signal is that the conversation disappears after a period of time.
Right.
Which is illegal
Very much
because
so.
like all of this information is supposed to be available like via the Library of Congress. Like if we wanted to get a freedom of information request, like there's no way to get like
Yeah, what you said. Yeah, it's very much illegal. And he very much was like, oh, I'm not, you know, this isn't anything that should be classified. And then it very much was things that the rest of the intelligence apparatus was like, well, actually. But so, like, I was watching this TikTok and this girl was like, well, Jeffrey Goldberg is wrong because he, like, held on to that info. Like, he had the information 2 hours before the bombs were supposed to hit, right? But he didn't share that information with anybody until afterwards. And so I'm
well,
like,
classified.
huh?
I said, well, it's classified. Like he would have gone, they would have locked him up.
Right.
Right? Had he
Yeah.
shared that information, because it is in fact classified information.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I was like, what could he have really have done that wouldn't have got him locked up? And I just feel like it's real easy to, you know, sit behind the camera and be like, I would have told. But then what are the ramifications that are going to happen to you personally for being that person?
Yeah, they're already disappearing people on the street like it's normal.
Right. And then there was that one, it was I want to say she was a journalist, but it was somebody that like did something, and maybe she worked for the government or something, but like as soon as she was gone, she ended up dead. Like it was a woman. I have to find out more information, but it was something that has to do with the Trump administration. Maybe she broke a story or whatever, and then she ended up dead like a couple weeks later.
I didn't hear about this. I heard about a young woman that worked under Biden. There were two people recently tied to the Biden administration that were relatively young people, like in their 30s,
Yeah.
who just woke up dead recently. But I didn't hear about this person, so definitely text me when you come across it, and I'll add it in the final show notes so that people can do additional research if they would like.
Okay.
Well, and also, like, because we're going to talk about all things toxic Trump regime right now. So, in a prior episode, we had talked about the fact that basically the Trump administration, like, held Andrew Tate's suitcase for him, like, got, like, negotiated him out of wherever he was, right?
Eastern Europe somewhere.
Not Armenia. Where is it?
Romania.
Yeah,
Romania.
Romania.
Brought them here, right? Now, Andrew Tate has been accused of attacking his girlfriend here in Florida recently. Did you see that?
Shocker.
Right.
Pictures of her on the internet with bruises all over her face. I know, right? That's first of all shocking, right? Like he has a long history of being a woman hater. So the fact that even anyone is his girlfriend is crazy. Like, first of all.
Let's use the
And I'm
term
not
girlfriend lightly because she could have been, because he has a lot of girls that are like his girlfriend, but really he's a pimp and they're his, 304. So
maybe. I mean, maybe. Yeah. So did you see where Kanye invited Andrew Tate and his brother to the studio to be in the studio with him while North was there? And Kim went and got North and took her home. Like, what timeline are we on where Kim K is the voice of reason?
Right.
Like,
right.
What's happening right now?
That is so disgusting. Like, your daughter?
And he was just accusing Kim, he just went on another rant. And I don't know. I mean, clearly he's unwell. Like, clearly he's not okay. And I've been saying, like, if he was a woman, he would have been under a conservatorship already. But he just went on a whole tirade and accused the Kardashians of being sex traffickers.
He's not wrong.
Huh?
I said he's not wrong.
No. No, but then the next day you're inviting Andrew Tate to the studio with you and your daughter. Like, it just all seems a little suspicious for me.
Well,
but also very on brand for the Trump administration because they clearly have a thing for rapists and women abusers.
Oh, for sure.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I think, so somebody had made the point, so this isn't like my original thought, but that the Kanye's ranting, there's so much like truth in what he's saying, even though some of it is like he dips off into racism and anti-Semitism. There's a lot of truth in what he's saying, and because he has this label of crazy, he knows that he can go, and he, to a certain extent, he is, dealing with mental health issues. And also, he is able to say these things without the kind of retribution that somebody who wasn't seen as being in their right mind. And so he's basically like he's mad about whatever his position right now in life, whatever. And so he's telling on everybody. But I don't think he's lying. I mean, there's so many connections with the Kardashian family. Like if you go down like the rabbit hole of like the church that they're into, their connections with Diddy, Kris Jenner's old boyfriend. I forgot what's the black dude's name that was like the bodyguard, but then became the boyfriend. Yeah, like he's tied to he's tied to Diddy. So like Kanye's spitting facts. He just is also showing that he's a terrible human in the process.
Nah, for real.
Do you guys remember Orlando Brown
Of
from That's
course.
So
Mhm.
Raven? Yeah,
Mhm.
like I feel like that's kind of the similar situation. Like he went on social media and like went on some pretty wild statements, but like look what happened. Turns out a lot of it was true and like he was like, drowning his sorrows in partying and all that stuff and I think like the B2K members as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
Christo.
it's just yeah, and look, like, society labeled them, like, unwell and crazy, and turns out a lot of things that they were saying were actually true.
Well, there's a theory that Orlando Brown is faking being crazy to stay safe.
No, I think he definitely has mental illnesses. I just still believe that the things that he's saying
Mhm.
is true. And there's a lot of like, because I one of the things that I super enjoy is I like blind items and like celebrity tea and gossip and stuff. And one of the things, if you really go down, a good rabbit hole, is that a lot of these people will say that Hollywood is a cover for basically sex trafficking, and not even just of minors, but just of people in general, and that a lot of people who you may see on TV who are well known are not as independently wealthy as you would think. And so a lot of times they make their money through what they call yachting, which is them being on, a boat somewhere with some billionaire that we don't know about because we only know the ones that are celebrity billionaires. We don't know the other billionaires that got buku money and hide in the shadows. And so like they have these, people who will pay to be with these celebrities, and you have people like Lindsay Lohan, Naomi Campbell, Zac Efron, like Bella and Hadid, like and the list go on. And then, you see them, pictures of them on yachts with these old crispity crunchy, men. And it's like maybe there's some validity to, these rumors that have been going on for decades.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so Naomi Campbell is actually tied in heavy with Diddy, and I think assuming he makes it to his trial that her name will probably come up
Hmm.
because they've been besties for a long time.
And she was
Do you
also cool with
remember?
Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, yep, yep. Do you remember when Russell Simmons' daughter was hanging out with that millionaire or billionaire a few months ago?
Hmm.
And yeah, that was the first thing I thought is like, oh, sis needs money.
And she said that. She said that her dad, I think, had like basically cut her off. And so she was like, I'm getting my money.
Gross. And now some stuff is allegedly, let me hit my allegedly real quick, about to come out on Oprah
Allegedly.
because she was about to do that documentary that was just supposed to premiere at the Sundance Festival. And she backed out at the last second because now, so initially she was saying that she had talked to these victims. It was supposed to be on Russell Simmons specifically, and that she had talked to these victims and she believed them. And then she had a conversation with Russell Simmons, and now she's backed out and she wants to make the documentary more general, where it's not talking about Russell Simmons specifically. Um, and I know we've talked about this in the past too, where like there were girls disappearing at Oprah's school that she built in Africa, and she was awfully snuggly with Weinstein. Um, so yeah, there's rumors that Russell Simmons has taped Oprah and that there's going to be some stuff coming out on her should anything else come out on Russell. So I do think that Hollywood is a big trafficking. I mean, like, why would it? People are literally willing to do kind of whatever, in the hopes of becoming some big mega rich star. And I'm not victim blaming them, like it's not their fault. I'm just saying, like, it would be the perfect opportunity to take advantage of people.
Harvey
Um,
Weinstein.
Yeah. And
and
also,
Donald Trump used to be right in the thick of all that too. Now people don't necessarily want to be seen with him anymore, but like all throughout the 90s and the early 2000s, Donald Trump was right in the thick of all that.
yeah. Yeah, he was definitely, I mean, enmeshed in Hollywood, and I want to say his second baby mama, Marley Matson or Marley whatever, she was an actress. So, yeah, definitely Donald Trump is part of that, the kind of sort of part of the Hollywood scene. He also was in had The Apprentice, which is a television show. So, like, yeah, and then he had The Celebrity Apprentice. So he's been bumping elbows with that crowd. And then of course he was besties with Jeffrey Epstein. So I mean, and I think too, when especially like when Diddy first got dropped, people were like, this isn't just going to hit celebrities and people that we think of like that. There's also going to be politicians and of course pastors, because celebrities do a lot of dealings with politicians, because if they're trying to get a business or buy a building or something, then they have to ingratiate themselves with certain political figures. So yeah, this is like far stretching, and I think that there's got to be some type of litmus test, because you're not just plucking people out of thin air and they're keeping their mouth quiet, right? Because are so many people affected and yet it's not exposed more? I guess that is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, so there's this YouTuber that I watch. She has two channels, and I'm not sure which channel this video was under. So one channel is called BJ Investigates, and the other one is called That Surprise Witness. And she like came up during the Free Britney movement. She's a former attorney. So one of her things is she likes to pull like legal dockets and like read them and go over them and like help people understand. So she did one last week or the week before that was filed, like I want to say back in early February, and I'm not sure why it's not caught on yet, but it was filed by a police officer. If I'm not mistaken, she was a police officer who basically admitted that not only that Diddy paid her to lie. So this guy was suing Diddy for SA. And somehow Diddy basically set him up so that he's now in prison today. That guy that was suing him is now in prison today for SA. That's not true. This police officer has come forward and basically said that Diddy paid her like $10,000 to like file the report, lie, like whatever, right? But not only that, but that she has brokered deals between Diddy and numerous judges and other police officers and attorneys. It's signed by a notary. Like, this is official on the record paperwork filed at the courthouse. I haven't seen anybody else talk about it, and the news hasn't reported on it.
Right.
And I just find that fascinating, along with the fact that like the mayor of New York with all his corruption just miraculously all of a sudden now they're, well, not miraculously, Donald Trump clearly like called in a favor. So it'll be interesting. I don't know if Diddy's going to survive. I mean, for all we know, he's on Epstein Island right now. But it'll be interesting. His trial is coming up in May. We've talked about going live. I definitely want to follow that, because I just think there's no way that all of these people are doing all of these things, like you said, and it's just kept quiet unless it's much bigger than we realize it. And I mean, I feel like we know it's big, but I think it's even That's why Donald Trump swore up and down he was going to release the Epstein papers. And we have yet to get the Epstein papers. We got rickrolled when they posted that link and said it was the Epstein papers. And then you clicked on the link and we got rickrolled. But there's still no Epstein papers.
No, we're not going to get the Epstein papers, and not even just because Trump's in office, but it's not just him. It's Democrats too. Like Clinton was at the island, and if Clinton was at the island, Hillary knew about it. You know, there was somebody else that was pretty big too that was kind of implicated in that. I want to say like maybe like Will Smith or somebody like.
No, it was Smokey from Chris Tucker.
Oh, Chris Rock or Chris Tucker. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But then they
Yes.
also said that like a lot of times they would have like celebrities and other people like join them so they could be like, oh, this is like a you know, like a charity event and we're going
Yeah.
to do X, Y, and Z. And so and then too when you talk about a lot of the like the Diddy parties, there are certain like semi celebrities that'll be like, yeah, I was at a Diddy party and it was a party. It was that they were like, yeah, there were some strange things or some weird things that maybe I wasn't into, but nothing that I would have thought of necessarily as illegal. But she's like, it was also a multi-layered, a multi-floored party. So, you know, certain people only get floor one. And then depending on who you are, you get to enjoy or get to go to the more like seedier parts of the party up until you get to you know, essaying young children. And so she said like the party she was at was 3 floors and she was only on floor one, you know, and maybe she only stayed till midnight. But I think it's really funny, not her in particular, because she's not somebody that we would know. But that so many celebrities are like, I mean, I left the party early, like Marlon Wayans. I left the parties early. I was never around for the freak offs, and it's like, okay, never, never.
And like you didn't know about them? Like why were you always leaving early?
Everybody knew about them because like people are like, oh, we didn't know Diddy. Da, da, da. I'm like, I remember like being in high school and knowing that like in the rumors about Diddy being a pervert and you know back then because you know people didn't have the same feelings about the LGBT community. You know, there was the whole, you know, Diddy, like, you know, salacious for him to like young men. They never really said boys, but it was like young men. Like, oh, he slept with so many women that you know he has to do something new and have sex with men. Like so when I was in high school, those were the rumors, and I like many other people in the 2000s watched Making the Band and you know saw the way in which he treated especially the girls like Aubrey and Dawn and all of them. Like you saw in real time how abusive and just controlling that he was. And so it's like if this is what he's showing us about himself on camera, what is he doing when the cameras go off to these people, you know? And like Aubrey O'Day, like was the first one of those people to really start talking about it, but people just poo-pooed her because one, she was kind of wild, and two, she's, you know, aspiring young talent. Who cares? You know what I'm saying? Diddy's been around forever.
And also, I think because nobody else was really saying anything. Like, I think if more people came out, um, maybe that would have added some validity. But I think it's like Diddy's doing X, Y, and Z, but nobody else is saying anything. So now it looks like, well, Diddy?
Well, he's the charming abuser,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and they're not the perfect victim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because obviously the perfect victim is like a virgin and like just sits at
Mhm.
home and yeah.
I mean, we saw it with Chris Brown and Rihanna. You know, people defended him real quick and was like, "Well, maybe she shouldn't have done X, Y, and Z and blah blah blah." And it's like, did we all see her face?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people also because even with the Chris Brown Rihanna situation, or even with like Puffy, a lot of people are like, well, were you really abused because like you either went back to them or you stayed with them for so long, or why didn't you come? All the blaming the victim things that people do. So like there were so many instances where people were like, something's wrong with Puffy, So I don't even know that she was like the only person. It was just that whenever somebody came out, they got shut down really fast. I think that she was probably one of the most like vocal people, you know what I'm saying, and like had probably more of like a star presence than most of the people that were coming forward in the beginning.
Yeah. Crazy. I don't even know how we went off on that Diddy tangent. I'm glad we did, because I feel like abusers should always be called out. But just to kind of bring it back from Diddy back to the Trump administration, have you been seeing where like apparently whenever there's like a Republican convention, Grindr crashes?
Yeah,
That's been happening, right?
yes, it
Yeah, I
happened.
guess so.
It happened at this last Republican convention for sure. And
Yeah.
I
Uh-huh.
just need the gays to like get together. It doesn't have to be like that specific person. Like they can find some friends or get it to a good, the Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg, somebody, you know what I'm saying? Like start outing these fools. Like they should
Yeah.
not be safe getting their freak on when
And
they
passing all these anti-gay and trans laws, but then you're out searching for gay and trans people on Grindr. And I
right,
guess Speaker of the House Mike Johnson was just caught on Grindr recently.
right,
And that's the one we've talked about before that had the black sun that
right.
nobody knows where the sun is. Um, and I mean, clearly he's so deep in the closet, he's like finding Christmas presents. But like, what? Like, just get them out. Like, just come out.
They
It's
Literally.
can't.
2025.
They
Have you
can't.
guys been on Grindr or like seen how that setup is?
No,
Mm-mm.
I've heard about it, but I've never.
Enlighten
Okay.
us.
So here's my theory, because I've always thought the same thing. Like, why isn't anyone coming forward about, like, oh, isn't that like the homophobic fucking politician wanting me to come suck his, you know what?
Yeah.
Um, so a lot of people on Grindr, and I'm assuming like DL men, don't typically post like a face photo. They only will post, I'm not kidding, like chest down. My friends have shown me, and of all my friends that have shown me like their grinders, I can maybe like I've seen 10 profiles where I've seen like faces.
Wow.
So I'm only assuming like, people are
Using fake
sharing photos.
names.
Yeah, whatever. And then as soon as they come over, they immediately sign a NDA or document or something.
Yeah, this sounds like a job for Anonymous. Sounds like a hackathon to me because you can post from the face down, but most of these Republican senators or whatever, they're not smart enough to get a good VPN or whatever it is that you're supposed to do. So this sounds like a hackathon to me.
Yeah.
I think there's a way that, and I think that that's where we need to be right now. We need to have, where's Anonymous? Get on it, guys. Come forward. We miss you.
Yes. Please come forward.
Yeah. That's a sound bite. I'm pulling that, and I'm gonna tag Anonymous in it
Yes.
when I post it.
Because I think that like now, especially, like, I mean, we're in a digital age, right? And when like the smarter people and they talk about like the way that conflicts and wars generally are going to be fought is it's going to be less hand to hand combat and more like cyber stuff, So I think that people who have that ability, especially in other countries where maybe be a little harder to trade. Maybe there's no extradition laws. You know what I mean? Like, like Russia. They're allowed to hack our crap. Can you, you know what I'm saying? Do some
Right.
good, help some people out.
I know a lot of times, like, if people like that do get caught, or like, the FBI gets a hold of, or like a sniff of them, it's either like they get recruited, or sometimes they like just lock them up,
Or they disappear. Like we
or
wouldn't
they
know. How would we
disappear.
know?
Yeah.
How would we know?
A girl that I went to cosmetology school with, she went to high school with a guy who was very good at like hacking the school system, and like just really good at that. And he used to like buy gold off of like people's credit cards that he was able to like hack into. Something like crazy. And so FBI like started to do an investigation and like tracked him, and yeah, like went to his house and was like, "So, we're going to give you two options. Either you come work for us, or like you're going to go to prison." And he went to prison.
Wow.
Apparently, I don't know if this is true. This is what my friend said, but apparently he said, "Fuck the pigs. I'd rather go to jail."
I mean, do you
Yeah, that's
remember,
real.
Chris, when, nah, that's real as fuck. Do you remember when Dad was dating that lady in St. Louis whose name I do remember, I'm just not going to say? He was dating a, no, I'm sorry. She lived in Rantoul, but she was
Right.
from St. Louis originally.
Okay.
And I don't know if she still had a house in St. Louis or if her kid's dad still lived in St. Louis, but her son was counterfeiting money like out of the basement of the house. You remember that?
I, I think so,
And
but who I think it is.
yeah. So he had a brother named Chris.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And I'm pretty
Clear.
sure they offered him a job as well.
Oh wow. Yeah. I remember
Yeah.
him. Yeah. Wow.
I don't know if he went to work for them or not.
And see, that's
Um,
what makes me know that, because the Pentagon works with Hollywood on movies. Like, that is a fact. You know what I'm saying? And there have been movies, multiple movies about so-called regular people. Sorry, Dre. Regular people who like have like a skill or whatever, and the government will extra rendition them and turn them into some type of CIA operative, and then you have real life examples of this actually, happening.
mhm,
So,
mhm.
what is that? The predictive programming or whatever,
Yes,
like
yes,
it's hiding in
yes.
plain
No, and
sight.
the Pentagon does have a branch that is specific to Hollywood. I just assume it's for propaganda.
Well, yeah, because like anytime, like any like military officer, plane, um, whatever gets into a movie, they have to consult with the Pentagon. So, like for instance, I was just talking to Dad the other day, and we were talking about Zero Dark 30, and I was telling him that it was the Navy SEALs or blah blah blah, and he thought it was somebody else, but then looked online for Navy SEALs, but it's just like that whole movie based off the premise, I guess, of getting, Osama bin Laden. They didn't just make that movie, you know what I'm saying? They worked intimately with the Pentagon, and the Pentagon was like, yes, you could put this in here. No, you can't. We're going to change this side of the story to make it fit, the narrative, and, America, fuck yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
Coming your way to save the fucking day, yeah.
Did you guys see the movie Reality with Sydney Sweeney?
Mm-mm.
It was about a FBI interrogation transcript of Reality winner, an NSA contractor who leaked classified information about Russian interference in the 2016 election.
Hmm.
And when you were talking about like the Pentagon working with Hollywood, I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
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 Any movie, like
Um,
you can go back, you can talk about Independence Day, anything that,
Wag the dog.
yeah, anything that has, even if you're talking about something as simple as like Scandal, which is in DC, you know what I'm saying, based in DC, West Wing, any of that stuff is consulting with, the Pentagon and the government, and they are, making sure that it's telling the narrative they want people to
They
see.
want to be out. Absolutely. I'm doing a terrible job of keeping up with comments tonight, but the young lady that worked for Biden, her name, U.S. Attorney Jessica Aber.
Yep, I think that's who I was talking about too. I think that's her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So thank you, Dee, for that. Okay, so speaking of the CIA, um, and this doesn't really have anything to do with them so much as we have a family member who was caught up in the USAID layoffs, who I've been accusing for working for the CIA for a while now. That's the only way that this is tied. But I found out that so I didn't realize that like all of these thousands of people that have been laid off for by Doge in the name of saving money are a lot of them are literally sitting at home right now, not working on paid administrative leave. So what money are we saving exactly?
So I think I just saw an article. I didn't click on it and read it, so somebody can definitely fact check me. But I think that they might have just like went ahead and terminated those positions. One, and
Yes,
two,
yes,
people aren't necessarily even sitting at home getting paid. They're sitting in a foreign country and they can't come home because they have been laid off. There was a woman at, I want to say, was it Mayor Bowser's press conference or something, that it was a black woman, and she was saying that her daughter was somewhere in like Southeast Asia, yeah, like India, Pakistan kind of region, Myanmar, that kind of area, was stuck over there right now and can't get home because of these cuts.
Oof. That's scary.
Yeah, so like I don't even know that we actually know the extent of it because the lamestream media, I'm going to use a one of their terms, like they are more or less kind of falling in line. So a lot of these things that they really should be reporting on, they're kind of letting fly under the radar, or and they're wrapped up in SignalGate and then the myriad of other things that come up on a daily basis. But yeah, there are people who are laid off somewhere overseas and can't get home right now.
yeah. No, that's terrifying. And as I'm talking about them being at home and not being paid, I just want to be clear that I'm not in any way throwing shade at them. My shade is for
Right,
Doge, who said there's saving money, but that money is actually still being spent, but the work isn't being done.
right.
No, that's terrifying to be in another country and not be able to come home and like now you're just stranded is crazy.
It's giving Belko experiment. Have you guys seen that movie?
No, tell
It's
us.
not,
I'm
yeah,
I'm referencing so
like
many
tell
movies.
us.
It's about like actually the guy who plays Fitz is in it. I'm
Oh,
pretty sure that's him. Um, it's follows like these Americans and they're working for some company in this other country, and everyone like clocks in that day, and someone comes on the announcement and is because they all have a chip in them somewhere. Um, and this voice comes on and is pretty much like, this amount of you like work here, you've been working here, you've made all these relationships. Well, some of you are going to kill each other. And then it would like come back and say, you have to kill 20 of you have to die. And it doesn't matter like who it is, how you do it. it's just got to be done within the hour, or 50 of you, because they all have that chip in them, who's ever the voice is can press a button and it'll be completely random whose head explodes essentially.
What?
Yeah.
I feel like I might have seen that. That's so sick.
It's a pretty
Said,
wild movie.
I just watched They Clone Tyrone finally the other day and was just kind of like, I mean, I don't know if they're under, I mean, they might be under cities, right? But I definitely think, like, I know that there's some truth to, again, the Pentagon is pushing propaganda through Hollywood. And one thing about these people, they love putting their sick shit in movies and calling it, entertainment.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, did you see the little conspiracy with, is it Popeyes and Hennessy that like collaborated?
Don Julio. Get that
Yes,
Don Julio,
yes.
act a Julio.
Yeah, and people, like, in the comment sections were like, "This is giving, like, they cloned Tyrone."
Yeah, it's giving psyop.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because, like,
Wow.
what are you doing?
I mean, well, definitely for sure. And I don't even feel like it even has to be that conspiratorial, but like we know that they're putting toxic food into, the Black community, and, what better way to get rid of some bird flu chickens, you know what I'm saying, than Popeyes, you know what I mean? Like, so, like, I don't know. I just feel like, like it doesn't have to be super complicated or super conspiratorial or like extra mind control-y, but like definitely we know they're poisoning the food and the water, you know what I'm saying? But like this is a more exaggerated way to do it so that they can, claim, oh, it's just a movie.
Right. Yeah, because I
But
think
that's
it, like,
entertainment.
gives the message of, well, they wouldn't let it get that bad, right?
Oh my God. I love that meme that it's like when, and remember kids, when they say your government wouldn't do this, and it's like a list of all the terrible
Yes.
things the
Mhm.
government has done in real life. Like, okay. I
They
mean, like,
absolutely
it's
would.
like, well, they wouldn't, mind control people or whatever, but Operation Monarch and Paperclip are like actual real things that the CIA did. Like they were shooting people up with, LSD to get them, spitting the truth or whatever. Like that's some real
Mhm.
stuff. Like they put people in internment camps, they enslaved. Like what part of yes, the hell your government would do you not understand? Like I don't feel like any conspiracy. Feel like every conspiracy deserves at least a little investigation because they absolutely would.
I want to say one of those with, like, the LSD and mind control. Have you guys heard, like, Charles Manson
Yeah,
apparently is, like, a part of that?
yep, I heard that.
Mhm.
Yep, I
And
Mhm.
heard that whole thing was like a psyop. But
yes.
if we're talking about psyops, you know what I'm saying, in the way that when Ferguson was happening, that was, also, yes, it was real, yes, all the things that happened, but it was still a psyop in the sense that the government was testing us to see like how far they could go. Could they have actual tanks and, driving down a Target parking lot in, a suburb? And the answer is yes, my nigga,
Yep.
yes. And I'm telling you not what I heard, I'm telling you what I saw.
Yeah.
Could they, put out weapons that, what those smoke bombs and everything that were actually against, the
Tear
Geneva
gas.
Convention for, using in another country, but could they use it on, Black people and allies in Ferguson? Absolutely. And they did repeatedly. And then when another incident happened later, they escalated the type of devices that they were using because they hurt more, they stayed on you longer, the noise, that siren that they put out, all of those things were psyops. Even if the event that precipitated it was real, everything that the government did to the people was still to test like the limits on what our government can do to us. And the vast majority of this country proved that they could do whatever the hell they want because y'all sat down. And
Literally.
you saw what was happening to people who were just, speaking out in the streets, and a lot of people let that happen, and I'll never forget.
No,
No,
and
I'll never forget indictment night or non-indictment
Yeah,
night.
not me either.
That was
yeah.
so scary.
And I'll say a lot of people let it happen, but I think it's the same thing that's happening even right now. And the media plays a role in it for sure, but it's like they convince themselves that like you're doing too much. That's why the police were there with tanks, because like we needed y'all to sit down. You know what I mean? Like they're not, I think people aren't making the connection that no, these are actual real people who have like beef with their government, and these are the reasons why, because the government is wrong, it's fucked up, it's a whole um what's his face whose son just got
Bob McCullough's son, Matthew McCullough, with his cop ass,
yes,
with his set it off
yes,
on.
yes, that he literally did everything under the sun to do so that he wouldn't have to indict um Lord, what's the
Darren Wilson, the
Darren
murderous
Darren
Wilson.
cop,
Wilson?
Darren Wilson.
And people are just like, I think, just like even right now, like with the lady that they just disappeared, and the guy that they're literally snatching people off the street. I just shared a post where this guy said he got abused by ICE last night or the night before, where they're unmarked, like, no, for all we know, how do we even know this is ICE?
We don't.
Right, like just
Right.
snatching people off the street and just disappearing them, and like people, nobody's saying shit. And
Well,
when
and
they
I
do
wanted
say something, it's like, well, but they shouldn't be in the country illegally. But these people aren't in the country illegally.
right. And they're people.
And even
They're
if they
people.
were,
They're
yeah, and even if
people.
they were, you can't just snatch them off the street. And so I just think that people convince themselves that there must be a reason why your government is treating you this way, but like they're not going to do that to me because I'm not doing those things.
Yeah, until they
Well,
do. And there's a whole show on Netflix, because usually when we talk about people wrongly accused by police, it's usually a black or brown face added to it. But there's like a whole series, I want to say it's on Netflix, about like called like
how to
wrongly
make a
accused.
murderer.
No, or wrongly accused, something like that, where it's majority of the people in there that are innocent and was doing time were white people. It was almost
Mhm.
the show was almost completely like poor rural ass white people, So it's crazy that the same people who are spouting this nonsense, because the empire doesn't care about a little fodder here or there, they don't care about some white people getting, or a lot of white people getting caught up in it. And they're showing that now more and more and more and more and more. And so I hope that white people are learning more and more that you're not safe because you're poor and you're disposable.
Mhm. Absolutely.
That's just it. That is it right there.
Good luck to you.
I know, right? We have already hit another hour. Crazy.
We can
Um,
yap.
huh?
I said we can yap.
Yes. Okay. I wanted to make sure to hit segregation. Um, because, and it goes where it goes. It is what it is. But I wanted to get the wording right. That basically what he did was he changed a rule that basically no longer makes it illegal to have segregated facilities, right? But everybody, was kind of all, the internet was on fire about it. And I saw like all, first of all, don't threaten me with a good time. That's all I'm saying. Um, but I saw the gamut from like, they don't want Black people to say that it's cool because they're basically testing us right now to see To the people that are like, yeah, but they're not going to leave us alone, right? Because we've done this before. And like, we're like, well, fuck y'all then and build our own shit. And then they come and blow it up because they really are obsessed with us. At the
Literally.
end of the day, like, without black and brown people, this is a dry ass, crusty ass, flavorless, saltine cracker of a country.
With unwashed legs.
With dirty, literally, legs crusty. But I just was wondering if you guys had any thoughts around segregation or because my thing is they've been having segregated things, right? Like this isn't a new thing. Like there's rich white people meetings all over the place that we don't know anything about. Rich white people places where they go and hang out, and even
Country
probably
clubs.
poor white people.
Country clubs.
Yes. So I feel like it's something that they're already doing, but like was just still curious whether you guys had thoughts around segregation.
So
Should be
many thoughts.
interesting.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, because I have so many thoughts. I think that one, it would be, I think it'll be, first of all, I think they're kind of already doing it anyway because they're eliminating DEI programs and anything that is associated with that. And with that, that means that corporations are also like starting to follow suit. So already super white boardrooms or whatever are going to continue to get whiter, I think, for a while. But also, like, like Target, for instance, like their bottom line is, what I'm saying, they're falling because they took away their DEI. They're going after more companies, whatever. Black people have like tremendous spending power in this country. Like we spend the most money on God knows what, everything, Jordans, grills, jewelry, perfume. Like, so black people love spending,
Hair.
yeah, hair, especially hair. Black people love spending money. You know what I'm saying? And so, if that comes up, I think there is a lot of consensus around, well, we'll have to figure out where else to put our money and with ourselves. And amongst those, you know what I'm saying, to still want to do business. And I think ultimately it's going to be a like quicker catalyst for breaking the American economy, because if black people really withdraw their spending power in a significant way, like the economy is going to crumble. I mean, so they're really only like screwing themselves, which that's fine. You know what I'm saying? Just fuck yourselves, and you know what I'm saying. Uh, we'll all be picking up the pieces anyway.
That's what I've been kind of saying. I was like, I feel like this is going to go one of two ways. It might be bad for a couple months and then they're going to self implode. And then it might be a little bad, but we'll be okay, like eventually. Or like we could spiral into the dark ages. And I don't want to be a part of that timeline.
Me
Personally,
either. No, not at all.
I'm not.
No.
Do either of you watch White Lotus?
No,
Again,
I know about the zeitgeist of it because I watch things about it, but I haven't actually watched it yet.
oh, it's fantastic. But one of the ladies on there, spoiled rich, like, and probably like old money, like racist money rich. And she was like, at this age, I just don't think I'm built to live an uncomfortable life. And low key, she ate with that.
No,
I
Yeah, she
also
ate with
feel the
that.
same. Like,
No, she definitely ate with that.
no, that's
I,
real.
I would be a little bit uncomfortable. Like, I think I've said before that Black people have never really had an easy time in this country. So as things get bad, a lot of it is going to be things that we've already been doing anyway, right? Like, we've always had to kind of stretch money to, whatever, rob Peter to pay Paul. Like, we got to stretch this meal to feed 12 people, and I've only got $3.22. We've always done that. So that's not going to be new behavior for us. Like, is it uncomfortable? Yes. But are we able to do that? Also, yes. So while I do think it's going to be bad, I think that it's going to be worse for people who aren't used to having to like think about stuff like that.
Oh yeah, when recessions happen, that's when like, especially like amongst like white males, when hard times hit, they usually like their rates increase.
I could see that. I could see
Oh, sorry.
that. All right. Okay. Good times. This was a good time. All right, and Pad, you want to read us up out of here?
Yes, that's a wrap, but the movement marches on. Black Behind the Chair isn't a show, it's a statement. We're Impad and
Peppermint Petty.
Say about it. Mhm.
yes, challenging you to be your most authentic, unfiltered self, both in the salon and beyond. Keep shaking the table and breaking the mold. Until next time, power to the curl.
Cheers.
Cheers.